Hello everyone. Today let's talk about Borrelia and Leptospira. So today's learning objectives are we'll be learning about Borrelia, the different species which come under Borrelia, and also a bit about Leptospira. So let's start with Borrelia. Borrelia is a large, motile, refractile spirochete with irregular wide open coils. It has 15 to 20 endoflagellae, and since it's a very delicate organism, it cannot be stained by the regular gram stain, and hence we use Wright and Giemsa stain for staining. There are different species under Borrelia. There's one with Borrelia recurrentis which causes relapsing fever, and we have two different types of relapsing fevers. Borrelia vincenti causing Vincent's angina, and Borrelia burgdorferi causing Lyme's disease. Let's see the pathogenesis. The main virulence factor of Borrelia is that it has a capacity to have an antigenic variation. The reason behind this antigenic variation is mainly for the organism to escape immune clearance. Once the organism penetrates the skin, it reaches the blood circulation and invades various organs. And once the organism has invaded the organs, Borrelia-specific IgM antibodies are developed in the body, which are helpful in clearing the bacteria. But what happens in the meanwhile? Borrelia, which is present in the internal tissue, that is, which has already invaded the organs, it alters the outer protein and expresses the new antigen. But the already formed IgM antibodies are effective against the old antigens. So they are not effective against the newly expressed antigen. So now this Borrelia with the new antigen causes a relapse of fever. Relapse fever. There's an endemic relapsing fever and an epidemic relapsing fever. There are two types of relapsing fevers. They're transmitted by arthropod vectors. They present as 2 or more episodes of high fever, headache and myalgia, and also hepatosplenomegaly. There are two stages of this relapsing fever. One is a bacteremic stage which lasts for a week, and the next is the afebrile period, which again has a duration of 4 to 7 days or a week. So what happens here is, let's see this picture. There's a temperature curve. The first 1 week is the bacteremic stage, wherein the patient is having episodes of high fever, headache, myalgia, and all those symptoms. After the end of 1 week, there will be a week of afebrile period, where the temperature goes down to the normal human body temperature and no such symptoms are there. And this keeps on repeating. So this repetition of this fever is called as a relapse of fever. And the relapse can be a single relapse or multiple relapse, depending on what form of the relapsing fever the patient presents with. The complications are subconjunctival hemorrhage, myocarditis, and liver failure. Let's see the two different types of relapsing fever. Let's start with the epidemic or louse-borne relapsing fever. It's transmitted by pediculous humans, and it spreads to the human by the crushing and rubbing of this arthropod into the skin. It is prevalent in low socioeconomic groups, and there's only a single relapse. But what about endemic or tick-borne relapsing fever? This is transmitted by Ornithodorus soft tick, and the organism enters the human being by the bite of this tick. The natural host for this is rodents. There are repeated relapse of fever which takes place in endemic or tick-borne relapsing fever. So epidemic or louse-borne relapsing fever is only a single relapse, whereas endemic there are multiple relapse of fever. Now let's move on to the laboratory diagnosis. How can we detect this organism in the laboratory? Firstly is by detection of Borrelia in a peripheral blood smear by Giemsa or acridin orange stains. Can be grown on chorioallantoic membrane of the chick embryo, and it can also be grown by intraperitoneal inoculation in the mice or rats. A person with relapsing fever the different antibiotics which can be given are tetracycline, chloramphenicol, penicillin, and erythromycin. How can we prevent it? Mainly by eradication of a vector. Eradication of ticks by using insecticides, and eradication of louse by delousing and by personal hygiene. Next, let's discuss about Lyme's disease. It was recognized in 1975 in Lyme, Connecticut, USA, following an epidemiological investigation of a cluster of cases of suspected juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. The organism leading to Lyme disease is Borrelia burgdorferi, and the vector is an Ixodes tick. The natural hosts are wild and domestic animals, mice and rodents, deer, sheep, cattle, horses, and dogs. In USA, it presents as Lyme's arthritis. In Europe, it's associated with chronic skin and neurological symptoms. There are 3 stages of Lyme's disease. Stage 1 is where it presents in the form of erythema migrans. It develops after 3 to 22 days of the bite of the vector, and it presents as annular maculopapular lesion at the site of bite. And the major sites are thigh, groin, and axilla. These are the sites on the human body where this erythema migrans is usually seen. Stage 2 is the early disseminated stage, which presents as arthralgia, malaise, and fatigue, and it is associated with neurological abnormalities like meningitis and encephalitis, and also cardiac abnormalities like AV blocks. Stage 3. This develops months to years later, and it starts off as Lyme's arthritis, associated with skin manifestations like acrodermatitis. So these are the 3 stages of Lyme's disease. How are we going to diagnose a case of Lyme's disease? The specimens or the samples which we can collect from a patient are skin lesion, blood, or CSF. The culture can be done. Serological methods are the mainstay, where an IgM is detected within 3 to 6 weeks of infection. The methods deployed are indirect immunofluorescence, ELISA, and Western blot. Molecular methods like PCR is also available. And there's an increased WBC count in the CSF, which shows as lymphocytosis. The treatment aspects. The drug of choice is doxycycline. In children, amoxicillin is preferred. And if a patient presents with CNS or CVS manifestations, ceftriaxone is added. Let's look into the risk factors. Forestry workers and farmers are more prone to Lyme disease, mainly because they have an exposure to the ticks. And how are you going to prevent it? Mainly by avoiding the Lyme disease endemic areas and by public education. Next, let's see about Borrelia vincenti. It is a motile spirochete. It's a gram-negative mouth commensal. The disease it causes Vincent's angina. It presents as an acute ulcerative necrotizing gingival stomatitis or oropharyngitis. This doesn't cause the disease on its own. It's with a symbiotic association of Borrelia vincenti and Fusobacterium fusiform, which presents as Vincent's angina. Diagnose it by demonstration of both the organisms and stained smears of exudates from those ulcers, and also by culture. And the treatment is a combination of penicillin and metronidazole, which is targeting both Borrelia and the gram-negative bacteria. That was about Borrelia and its different species and different diseases caused by those species. Now let's move into Leptospira. It is carried in the kidneys of rodents and excreted in the urine of the rodents. The organism or the species which we'll be discussing here is Leptospira interrogans. It is a slender organism with numerous coils and hooked ends resembling the handle of umbrella, and it has 2 flagella. The motility is the rotation along their long axis. It's a motile organism. And since this is also a delicate organism, it cannot be stained by gram stain. So silver impregnation method is used for staining. What about the pathogenesis? The mode of entry, how does this organism enter the human body? Through cuts or aberrations of the skin or the mucous membranes of the nose, mouth or eyes. Now, once the organism has entered into the human body, it multiplies in the blood and circulates to all parts and can affect any organ. It starts off the presentation as mild influenza-like illness associated with meningitis. Later on, it progresses to renal involvement, leading to albuminuria. Now let's check into the clinical syndromes. It presents as canicular fever and Weil's disease. Canicular fever is anictic leptospirosis. Weil's disease is an icteric leptospirosis. There are two stages. The first stage is a septicemic or a leptospiremia, wherein the organism is present in the blood and the CSF, but it is not present in the urine. And the second stage is an immune or a leptospuric stage, wherein the organism is present in the urine and it is not present in the blood. It cannot be isolated in the blood. So the stage of the disease is more important because based on this stage, we need to collect the samples or specimens for laboratory diagnosis. If it's in the first stage, we're going to collect blood or CSF. And if it's in the second stage, we're going to collect urine because that is where we can isolate the organism. And how does this disease present? It presents in the form of hemorrhages, aseptic meningitis, pulmonary dysfunction, jaundice, renal dysfunction, and hepatic necrosis. Since I've already told you it invades almost all the organs, so all the major organs are involved. Let's look into a bit about the epidemiological aspects. It's a zoonotic disease. Humans are unnatural or the end hosts, and the natural reservoirs are rats, cats, dogs, cattle, and pigs. What are the risk factors? Mainly the low socioeconomic status. And what we need to remember are the 3 R's, that is the rodents, rainfall, and rice fields. It's usually found mostly after a bout of floods. And who are those people who are more prone as an occupational hazard? Like farmers, miners, sewer workers, and fish handlers. They are more prone to this disease. Modes of transmission, mainly by contaminated by the animal urine, through intact mucous membrane or minor aberrations, by inhalation of aerosolized body fluids through nasal mucosa or cribriform plate, and also in the form of a congenital infection. It's globally distributed, mostly in Brazil, India, and Thailand. And in India, it's more common in Andaman and Nicobar Islands, Gujarat, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, and Karnataka. Let's look into laboratory diagnosis. The specimens which we need to collect or the samples which we need to collect from the patient. I've already told you it depends on which stage it is. If it's in the leptospiremic stage, CSF or the blood sample has to be collected, and this is usually in the first 10 days. And next 10 to 30 days or about a month, it's in the leptospuric stage. So we're going to collect a urine sample. The organism can be seen under a dark ground microscope, or if not, then we can check in by a silver impregnation method. And the organism is a motile organism, so the translational movements can be seen under a microscope. And when we move on to serology, it is usually done at the end of first week, and paired sera is preferred. There are two types of serological tests, genus-specific serological tests and serovar-specific serological tests. The different types of genus-specific tests are macroscopic agglutination test, ELISA, latex agglutination test, immunochromatographic test, microcapsule agglutination test. Serovar-specific test, the gold standard is microscopic agglutination test, wherein the patient's serum is mixed with live suspension of a serovars, and whatever agglutination is taking place, that agglutination is seen under a dark ground microscope. This comes in the culture. Yes, we can culture this organism. It's an obligate aerobe. The growth is slow and takes 2 to 3 weeks, and the media has to be added with an animal serum or a tween 80. One such medium is Ellinghausen, McCullough, Johnson, Harris medium or EMJH medium. It can also be cultured in embryonated egg on chorioallantoic membrane and the allantoic cavity, and also by animal inoculation into guinea pigs. Other methods of laboratory diagnosis by molecular methods as PCR, and also other investigations like renal function test and liver function test, where the parameters are elevated. The renal function test, there's increased blood urea and creatinine, and liver function test, there's an elevated bilirubin and liver enzymes. Let's go on to the treatment aspects. The mild cases are treated by doxycycline and amoxicillin, severe ones with penicillin and ceftriaxone. Renal failure cases, renal dialysis is done to counteract uremia. And in case there is a renal failure, tetracycline should not be used since they are toxic to the kidneys. Now moving on to prevention and control. Protection of the skin by gloves and boots to prevent exposure, disinfection of the water supplies, and also rodent control and improved sanitation. So this is all we Borrelia and Leptospira. Thank you.